I don't know if I need the microphone. I think you can all hear me, right? Oh, you need it? Oh, okay, okay. All right. So anyways, I am Ivo.
And I'm Helise, hi.
And together last year we were working on this project. I think we were pretty unique in that sense that I think something like this has never done in the world before. I would like to think that that helped me sleep easier in the nighttime. But what we did was that we had around 130 young people in Estonia, all over Estonia, who were guarding the elections of what happened in the local area in 2017. And why were they doing it? Because last year was also the first time when 16 and 17-year-olds could vote in Estonia. So we were thinking that it's not only a privilege to have the ability to vote, but it's also a necessity to understand that with this privilege also comes the new burden of making sure that democracy is done in a correct way and in a fashionable way, so that everybody knows what's happening behind the closed doors of the schools. So how did we come into the fruition of this project was, I think in the late 2015, I met up with my friend Vladimir Svet, who back then worked already, he back then worked in Estonian Chancellor of Justice. And we were brainstorming about possibilities on how to make this whole Vote at 16 campaign bigger. And one of the ideas that came up there was the idea that maybe we should make young kids sort of shadow the way how usually voting watchdogs see what they do. And in the end, the idea grew bigger and bigger, and we managed to get the whole department in Chancellor of Justice to work with us. So the child ombudsman is also under the Chancellor of Justice, and we managed to get this whole ombudsman's people to work with us. And from there on, we also managed to get the Estonian network of NGOs and Estonian student unions to work with us. So we got this kind of dream team together, and then we were thinking, okay, now we practically have people who want to do something like that. How are we going to do it? And in early 2017, we got the funding from two things. We got the funding, so the Ministry of Education helped us, Ministry of Education and Science, and also we got some of the money from, I don't know how's the English word for it. Well, anyway, there was another fund also where we got more money. Kodanikuühiskonna Sihtkapital. I don't know how it's in English. Let's say that it's Civil Society Fund. Yeah. So we got the funding, and it was like green lit for us. Now we can do it. And the first process was that now we need a project manager. And through some search and through some mishaps, we ended up with Helise. So Helise.
Yes, that was the case. Let's see what is the next slide. So Young Watchdogs, by the way, we are not that clear what the name of the project in English is. I think in the schedule we had Young Electoral Guards, which sounds a bit more fancy, but we personally prefer Young Watchdogs since it's catchy. As Ivo already mentioned, we had a bunch of partners in the project, but the young people in the project were elected, or they could choose between three roles when they were giving up their names for the project, which were then the election guardians, or the election watchdogs then in that sense, then the election observers, and the members of the election committees in the municipalities during the election days. Now, to differ all of these three roles, especially the first two ones, they seem a little bit similar. The election guardians, or the watchdogs, were young people or students in schools who were following the principles given out by the Ministry of Education and Science. which we will come up to later, and the election observers were working on the election day itself, so on the 15th of October last year when we had the local elections. Election observers is something which you can see in many countries being, happening anyways. This is the graph from where we had the election guardians or the election the watchdogs. As you can see, the most biggest clusters were in the bigger towns, but as you can see from the map, then we had young people working all across the country. We had wanted to target Eastern Estonia, especially Ida-Virumaa specifically, and I would say that we did do that rather well, since we did have a couple of cases from Narva, but also other.
This map, I think, shows the people who were in the, kas lugesid neid valimiskaarte, eks ole, siis see siin küll 133 kokku ei tule.
No, it shows the cities,
Okay.
not the people. One red dot is not only one person.
Okay.
So the biggest important part of the project, how we followed it up, or how was the outline of it. The young people were elected to the project in May. They could apply, and then during May they got their answer that congratulations, you have been elected. Then during summer we had 3 different sets of seminars or workshops from them, from how elections work in a municipality level, or what are the laws connected with elections, but also what are the ethics, since there is also a so-called an older young election watchdogs already from the how is it then?
Network of NGOs, basically.
Network of NGOs. I'm really sorry. The English terms are not something which we use every day for these different organizations. But the work itself began most actively during September with the first school day, which is 1st of September in Estonia, till the very last day of 15th of October. We had to work a lot to make the project and the work behind cases reported more transparent, and we had a team which had a member of each of these different organizations connected with the project. We also wanted to, since we had the set of principles from the Education Ministry, which consisted from basic rules such as it would be nice if a principal of a school would not advertise his or her campaign in the school. It would be nice if there would not be any pamphlets given out in the schools or in the lessons or in the school library. It would be nice if the debates being held in the schools would not happen during lessons, but they would happen after lessons, and all or mostly bigger parties being trying to compete would be present at that sort of debates. So when a young person saw a breach of these set of rules, then they reported that to me, and I discussed that with the team. But usually also when you could see a clear breach of rules, then we called or wrote to the person who broke the rules, because we wanted to not be a mechanism of punishment in that sense, since we had also it was also rather easy to, the media, as it works, it's easy to report everything to the media, but that was not our point. We don't want to punish principals and teachers who are running, since politics in itself is not a bad thing, and it's the first time. To make it more transparent and more like this positive connotations and positive feelings behind it, then we contacted the principal and asked that if you can please remove, for example, your advertisement from the social media page from the school, then that's great. If that did not have followed, then we would contact other measures, such as the media, for an example. I'm not sure if you can see that well, but these are the sorts of cases which we were reported. As you can see, a bunch of the cases were actually connected with campaign on the streets, which is not allowed in Estonia. I think 2 weeks before. And it was a really nice effort to see that not only by the time that campaigning on the streets was prohibited, then also young people I did not know personally were starting to contact me through the Facebook page, through the social media page, through different handles. My email was up in a lot of places. They started writing me, hey, I saw this and I saw that, and then you could encourage the young people that yes, this is a place where you can actually call the police and report them since it's you know, not out of my hands. But there was also a lot of breaches from the schools, as said, and the team was consulted then on bigger breaches, which we'll come up to a little bit later. This is the map for where we recorded breaches. Also, for an example, in Tallinn, you only see one dot, but there were 2 or 3, I think, from Tallinn. Also in Narva, there were a couple more than 1. So this is the general map. So as, again, you can see that we recorded different breaches from all around the country. So the most general types of the breaches of the code of conduct, so to call, which the education ministry gave out, was giving out campaign gifts in lessons. Then the personnel working in schools use social media a lot, not only the Facebook page, but also then the e-school or email formats to the parents of the children or the students. Then the advertisements were demonstrated or placed in school libraries, which we also found a case in the university being happened. There was an advertisement on campaigning on school grounds. For an example, there was a bunch of cases where a car was parked with these stickers of political parties parked in the school lot, which is not actually allowed. Then there were debates being held during lessons. Just to follow up really quickly, then the debates during lessons is maybe the sort of thing which was maybe the most difficult to handle, since in a bunch of schools, especially in the countryside, it's connected with school buses bringing students home shortly after the lessons end. So this was something which we were not really clear on how to handle, especially when it was a school outside of a city where, you know, students can logistically move easier. And then there was a case of a mandatory visit to a municipal company in a school in Narva. And then more exact breaches, which would be maybe interesting. As I told already, the most active period was from 1st of September till the 15th of October. And these are recorded all from the young electoral guards or watchdogs. A kindergarten child was using a campaign photo with a member of a political party going there with a cake with the party's logo on the cake, and the children were used in the photo. A car, as I already said, was placed outside the parking lot. Also in Saaremaa, a local youth worker was giving out reflectors on the zebra thing just in front of the school. Then a case of giving out gifts. A math teacher gives out little gifts in a math lesson, in the lesson. Hey, you did good, and now have a mirror. or I think there was a case.
Girls got a mirror. And
yeah.
boys got a,
I think it's a magnifying glass. Yeah. So also, yeah, equal rights and everything. Again, it's a tiny logo. I can see that, or you can all see that, but it's still a logo. It's the car of the school principal in Põltsamaa. No, it's not in Põltsamaa, it's in Jõgevamaa. Then also the mandatory visit to a municipal company in Narva, as I mentioned already, which I think was the biggest outreach issue we had. Maybe Ivo can discuss a little bit further on that.
Yeah, sure. So in Narva, basically what they did was that the city municipalities sent out letters to Narva schools that they should have a visit to the Narva water faculty. So the kids were brought there, and the local guy who was sort of part of the Narva Waters board, but also running for the Narva City Council, was sort of giving a brief overview of Narva Water and not so brief overview about his campaign. So that's how they did it, that's how they roll.
Yes. Again, as mentioned already, there was a notes and emails and e-school to vote for a member of the parents' board in the school. Social media campaigns, again, there was also cases of, there was Teachers' Day is also in October, shortly before the elections. So on Teachers' Day, a lot of, teachers and principals running also for office brought cake and things to the school, and also we kind of had to, look over the case since teachers already are like a grown-up people. So when you bring the cake to the teacher's room or the teacher's lounge, then maybe that's not considered as a breach. We didn't know since we did it for the first time. And as I said, then debates were mostly held during school hours, and the politicians did take their pamphlets with them. There was a case in Tallinn where a local politician gave out pens shortly after the debate was over, and that was also all over the media. Yes, I think that's not my slide anymore. In short, the project I personally think was a success. And not only since we had a bunch of different cases and we could really see behind the closed doors of schools for the first time since we had the young watchdogs in it, but also I could see that young people actually really got this hazard or this feeling that they want to participate and they want to know. It turned out a little bit as a competition, since when they found out that someone else was reporting like a bunch of cases, then they wanted to do better. And my inbox was full with different questions and you had to answer them, since you already set this 24 hours time frame for yourself that you had to answer these young people. So I personally think it was a success, and I think that that's the general media and the publicity also think so. Yeah. Do you want to end up?
Yeah. There is, of course, the question of what's the future of this project, and sort of can we sort of sell this idea to other countries who are now doing their vote at 16 sort of lobby and maybe also pass the law of changing the law so that the young people can vote in the local area elections. I think it is possible, and the other thing is that this thing can be done also with parliament elections, because 18-year-olds who vote in the parliament elections are mostly in the 12th grade, so they're still in the end of high school. So there's plenty of possibilities. You can do it with European Union elections. So I think it is something that you can use the idea in a much more broader way, but also you have to be careful with this project, because like Heli's already said, you can't take over certain roles that certain governments, institutions already have. So you're not becoming police. We were co-working with the Chancellor of Justice, but at the same time we were very careful in sort of really pointing fingers, because what we were trying to do is that, for example, even with these cakes brought in or debates being held in the school hours, we were trying to be understandable of why certain things happened, and what we rather did was that we sent a letter which was very pleasant and sort of, hey, don't do that again, in a way. And I think it mostly worked also. There was maybe only one case in Põltsamaa where local teacher got a bit angry at us because she felt that she had the right to do it, but working 20 years as a teacher doesn't give you a right to now do a campaign or help your husband do a campaign in school. So there were these kind of cases where we were trying to be like soft, but at the same time, for example, with the case of Narva water, that went directly to the Chancellor of Justice afterwards. So the info came to us, then it went to Chancellor of Justice, and they immediately sent out the real report and sort of cease and desist, that don't do that again. And they brought out the names and whatnot, and that went to media also. So we got a lot of media coverage with this project. Even BBC found us interesting enough. So yeah, I think we're happy with this, and I think it should be tried. But like I said, you have to be careful with this project also. Yeah. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Questions, yeah.
Are there any comments or questions? Yes, please.
Hey, my name is Katlin, and I would like to ask, do you think it's possible to do a project like this also without funding?
I think it is possible. Now, the second time, I think it is mostly possible because you already sort of have the name. You don't have to so much think about how you promote these things visually. And the only problem that I can sort of see is that getting young people all across Estonia to sort of giving them introduction into these topics, having the specialists come in, that can sort of become expensive, because one thing that I hope a lot of in the room know how to work with young people, that young people first of all come for the food, then they come for the other thing. So you have to always think about the food also. So I think it sort of takes some money. But you can do it cheaper, I think. Yeah.
Comments, questions? If not, then we have time for coffee break now, which is served just outside in the lobby. And we continue at 1 o'clock with our second panel. And thank you very much, Elise and Ivo. So we have some small presents for you as well.
Aitäh!